Hi, everyone. This is Caroline from Fiat Integrative Health in Franklin, Tennessee, and you're listening to the Fiat Health Podcast. We believe that now more than ever, the healthcare industry has become a place of confusion. And over the years, we have been asked countless questions about what true health and integration for the whole person looks like. Join us every other week as we explore topics ranging from primary care and women's health to counseling and spiritual health. We're so glad you're here. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Fiat Health Podcast. This is Caroline, and today I am joined by Ashlynn, nurse practitioner extraordinaire.
I don't know about that.
We today wanted to take a little break between seeing patients to talk about back to school.
Yes, we're doing lots of back to school physicals, and everybody seems to have very similar questions. So we thought it would be helpful to answer them in one place for you to refer back to.
Absolutely. So we are going to cover a lot of different things. It's probably all things that you've all heard of before. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's all good reminders, even for myself as I gear up for the school year. Amongst all of the buying supplies and uniforms and clothes and, it's like, okay, also what do we need to do?
That was my favorite part of the school year. Can't wait to get new shoes.
I can't wait to buy new shoes. But also how can we prepare ourselves and our bodies, our immune systems to be ready for school? Because we all know what's coming. It'll be sick season and the cesspool of school.
That's right.
Okay, so first thing we want to cover is just that we're not saying these things that we talk about will mean that your child won't get sick. It is inevitable that children are going to get sick, and it's not necessarily a bad thing that they're going to get sick. There's just so many germs, and they need to build up their little immune systems. But hopefully this will help them combat illness a little bit better, prepare their bodies to encounter those things. What other things, basic things, can we do?
Well, just like Caroline said, your kids are going to get sick. If you have little kids at home, they're going to get sick. Mm-hmm. It's just going to happen. But, just some things that you can instill in your kids early on. Hand washing, simple as that. I'm sure at school they talk about that a lot, but washing their hands, covering their mouths when they cough, sneeze, things like that can be helpful, even just to teach your toddlers going to preschool.
Sure. Or just to remind them, the bigger kids. Often we get asked the question of can my kid go back to school? Mm-hmm. Now, obviously every school has their own policies. So part of that is really up to the school. In general, you want your child to be free for 24 hours, a full 24 hours without any medication of fever, diarrhea, and vomiting. Now, I'll just say GI stuff is contagious forever, weeks. So, does that mean they're not contagious anymore? I mean, not really. Just because they vomited 24 hours ago, I've had kids who vomit with 3 days in between, and have on and off symptoms of GI bugs for weeks. So just, that is a typical rule of thumb is 24 hours, but know that they're still probably contagious and they need to practice really, really good hand washing. And that's just kind of the reality of these bugs is that they don't actually just go away after 24 hours of being symptom free. They do lessen, but that's also why things spread.
Right, exactly.
It's we don't live in a bubble. We can only expect so much.
Yeah.
A lot of parents will ask oh, my kid's coughing. Can they go to school? Are they still contagious? Same principle applies for the most part. If they're fine to go to school if they're fever free, if they're coughing, obviously try and teach them cough into their elbow, yada, yada. But are they contagious? I mean, maybe, probably.
I would say if they're coughing, they're spreading. But, if they feel good, they've been fever free. I mean, some of these viral coughs can last 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So obviously you can't keep your child home from school for 2 to 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
exactly. Just kind of use your discretion on that one.
Yeah, totally. And it's just nothing's guaranteed when it comes to illness. I think is the theme.
Right.
We will not guaranteed not get sick. Even if we do all of 10-step whatever, we're all likely going to get sick, and that's okay. Take reasonable steps. Okay, so first thing we wanted to touch on outside of that kind of disclaimer at the beginning was nutrition. Again, these are all just like really great reminders. It's all probably things you know. But, especially when speaking to kids who go to school outside the home, we want to be really cognizant that, what can we control and what can we do to really maximize on that and recognize that some things are out of our control.
Right. Exactly.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
So what would you say is just give us the basics?
Sure. So, again, just like Caroline said, things that you probably already know, but just the basics of a well-rounded, healthy diet, minimally processed foods, trying to eat fruits and veggies in season. We know they have the highest micronutrient, immune boosting qualities, trying to avoid processed foods, packaged foods, sugary foods, things like that, especially in little kids. It can have a big effect on their behavior. And like Caroline said, when you have kids in school, you can't really control what your child's eating there, but you can control what they eat before and after. So we talked a lot about how important breakfast is, which I know, I don't have kids in school yet, so I'll let you talk on this. But, breakfast, and your mom probably told you this too, is the most important meal of the day. But, when you've got multiple kids and you're trying to get everybody up and dressed and out the door, it can be hard. So we thought we could, kind of go through some easy breakfast ideas, but just remembering to prioritize a protein, a carb, and a fat at breakfast. So it can be easy. Again, my disclaimer, I do not have kids in school, so please don't be offended by this, but it can be easy to grab a bar or, a pouch or something and have your child eat that on the way to school, which that's going to happen.
Sure.
But the problem with those things is they're usually, even the better brands, they're usually just carbohydrates and sugars, which don't leave your kids with lasting energy through the day. Now, if you have a kindergartner that eats their lunch at school at 10 a.m., like some of these schools do, might be okay. But, for your middle schooler who doesn't get to eat till 12 or 1 o'clock, they're going to be pretty hungry if they don't have that quality protein in the morning.
Yeah.
So what are some easy protein ideas that you use in your house?
Yeah. And I mean, too, one thing for homeschoolers as well is that I found that when we maximize breakfast, really focus in on the protein, and I'm like, kitchen's closed, the kids aren't coming back an hour later, like begging for food, usually. I feel like they do that all the time anyways, but, they're not like hungry sooner, and they're able to sustain until lunch at home. And we're not having to constantly interrupt our day or our homeschool morning to get a snack, get this, get that. So this is really like kind of our rotation. I'm sure obviously everybody has their own rotations and things that they like to cook and eat. But these are just some fun ideas that we've had for years now. We've had this similar rotation. So we'll do oatmeal. Really cool. If I sent this to my husband recently, but we haven't tried it yet, that you can ferment oatmeal like overnight. Yeah. Not in the fridge, not ferment like overnight oats. But so we do typically oatmeal, kind of like an oatmeal bar-ish. You can add, they like to have peanut butter. We put a ton of butter in there, like a lot of butter in our oatmeal for those good healthy fats. And usually we like to pair it with like really easy chicken sausage in the oven for like higher protein, because oatmeal doesn't have that much protein and peanut butter only has so much. So that one's a really easy one for us. Greek yogurt, high in protein. We get like plain Greek yogurt from Costco, drizzle it with either honey or maple syrup. Throw some fruit on there and some granola if you want. Another thing you can do, we're not huge into smoothies. Our kids don't get filled up on us, or they're kind of like, this is it.
That's all I get. I don't get to chew.
Yeah. And so we'll do it for like snacks, usually like a smoothie if we're going to do it. And some people will do like smoothie bowls, which I have done, but they're so messy and like stain everything that we've gotten away from doing that, except for occasionally. So you can do like protein packed pancakes, whether that's Costco has a brand. You can make your own with cottage cheese, where you can make it ahead and make a bunch of pancakes ahead on the weekend, and they can just pop them in the toaster. Yeah. We get some really great quality bread from like a local baker, and we'll use that for like French toast. And it's incredible when you get that high quality bread, how they only eat like 2 pieces, as opposed to when you get the really not so great bread from the store, they'll eat like 8 pieces of French toast and be hungry in an hour. It's like really not truly filling.
Yeah.
And then the obvious, like eggs,
Right.
Eggs in the morning, whether it's egg tacos, eggs on toast.
Yeah. Some kids are like, I don't like eggs. So you get creative,
Get creative. Egg muffins.
Exactly.
Eggs, all kinds of eggs.
All kinds of eggs. Baked in.
Yeah.
Breakfast burritos.
If you're a good baker, this is not my style, but some people I know will make like high protein muffins.
Right.
And then you make them in a big batch. So anyways, maximize on breakfast for sure. And because you're setting your kids up for success. And, there's lots of kids who are like, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. Or like, you're running out the door. And so, leaning towards those easily packed snacks, snacky breakfasts that still are high in protein that, they can grab and go, or even eat it at 9 a.m. when they're allowed to eat or whatever it is definitely good. Another thing too to think about is just those, high protein, high quality snacks for like after school. I know my kids, when they're in school, come home ravenously hungry because they ate lunch at like 11 or something. And of course they like didn't really eat lunch because they were talking to their friends the whole time, or they didn't like what I packed, or whatever the case. So just having something really, again, you can control their snacks at home. So like, hummus, peanut butter, just
beef sticks,
meat sticks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. A lot of this sounds like it's tailored towards little kids, but I think it's important to not forget about our middle schoolers and high schoolers because their diet, all kids' diets are important, but their diet is arguably more important because they're going through puberty and all the things.
Also the most difficult because they have their own opinions.
Right. Exactly.
And it's so hard.
Exactly. And they have, the ability to maybe buy things at school that you wouldn't have bought, like from the vending machine or, chips, whatever they have at school. So trying to prioritize having those high protein snacks that they can have in their backpack, eat before sports. If you have a driver, things that they can keep in their car, but really trying to focus on high protein for those big kids too, because especially if they're playing sports, a lot of these older kids are not eating nearly enough protein throughout the day.
Absolutely. And hydration, like I think especially in the teens, I see at least a few teens a year come in with consistent headaches. And it's like, well, you're not really like hydrating, probably diet too, but hydrating, trying to add in, especially for your kids in sports, electrolytes just once a day, not overdoing it by any means. There's like Zarbee's has an electrolyte drink. Body Armor's good in terms of like the lesser evils of the sports
the
drinks
bottled
out
sports
there,
drinks,
that you can buy and have readily available, better than Gatorade. But definitely trying to prioritize hydration the night before. Like if your kids have sports practice the next day, trying to make sure they're hydrated. They're not like downing a Body Armor right before practice. It's not going to be quite as effective as like being hydrated the whole day leading up to it.
Right.
What else?
Another piece of the kind of the immune system puzzle that we really wanted to stress was sleep, especially with those older kids who have phones and iPads and things that they have access to at nighttime. We know there's so much data out there about how much the immune system relies on quality sleep in order to function properly. Not only the immune system, but every bodily function relies on sleep. But something to remember is that elementary aged kids need at least 9 to 12 hours of sleep per night, which is a lot. And high school aged kids need 8 to 10. So those numbers are really important to keep in mind when we're, doing bedtime and, thinking about morning routines. Some other tips to get high quality sleep would be obviously, again, something you probably already know, but could be difficult is limiting screens. At least 1 to 2 hours before bed. There's lots of data on the effect of, blue light and the effect on the brain, especially when you're trying to go to sleep. It can cause shorter sleep duration, delayed sleep onset, poor sleep quality. And this is all from the American Academy of Pediatrics. They've done a lot of research on this. So sleep is really, really important for all kids of all ages and adults, but specifically kids and their immune systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Reminding myself of all these things.
I know. And so we were talking about too is, how can you set your house up in the evenings for your kids, right? Instead of fighting over screens, things that you can do are dimming all the lights in your house. In my house, we have a no overhead light rule. I think a lot of people do. Lamps only, And sunlight, getting as much sunlight exposure as you can in the mornings and the evenings. Thinking about as much natural light exposure as you can for you and your kids, especially with these days being so long. It's bright till 8:00.
Yeah.
Which can be hard for bedtime for little kids. But, utilizing that
the evening light
can be really helpful to kind of settle everybody, calm everybody's immune system, everybody's central nervous system down a little bit.
And I know I see a lot of families who, phones aren't allowed in the bedroom.
Right.
And I think that's just an incredible rule. I just want to give all those parents a hug. Yes, thank you.
I know.
So having a designated place for phones for the teens, setting an alarm, you can blame us. Say the pediatrician said that your phone has to be put away at 8:00 in this spot. They are not allowed in the bedrooms. And I also say that to myself, my phone charges outside my bedroom, so because we're on call at night. And so I still have to be able to hear it, but not keeping it in the bedroom. I always tell parents sleep starts in the morning. You kind of think well, it starts at 9 p.m. when I'm or 10 p.m. when I'm trying to fall asleep. But really, like you said, getting that morning sunlight. We'll do one day a whole podcast all about sleep, but definitely for sure screens. And if you're dealing with any kind of start of sniffles and sickness, really being we're going to prioritize rest. We also do no overhead lights, or at least we try to, and have some lamps set up. And then 2, I moved our TV out of our main living area. So, I have a lot of younger kids, and it's amazing how out of sight, out of mind it is. Because when it's there, they're I want to watch. And, when they don't see it, they're oh, I replaced it with a little bookshelf. They're let's sit and read books. It's amazing.
Perfect.
Great. I love it. So yeah, definitely focusing in on sleep for sure. Okay, so last thing we're going to talk about is some supplements. I know a lot of people ask about this. I think, in an ideal world, we're getting everything we need from the food that we're eating. I think that's just really difficult to do these days. So just here's some, I would not say absolutely you have to be on all these supplements, but if you want to take that extra step to be able to prepare your kids' bodies to face these illnesses, might be good to do this, that first month of school, at least move, the first couple months as we're moving into 6th season and just starting to get back into all those germs. So first one's just a multivitamin, which is great. There's so many kids ones out there. We like Seeking Health.
Yeah, Seeking Health has a good chewable tablets, capsules. They have all options.
Mary Ruth's is a great option. It's liquid. The gummies are fine. They're not my favorite, but Smarty Pants, know.
The high gummies in the glass jars. Yep. A lot of kids will do those.
Right. Make sure it's methylated, when you get it, methylated B12, methylated folate.
Yep.
And then vitamin D. So luckily it's been the summer, but a lot of times, there's an incredible amount of research about how your vitamin D levels affect how you handle viruses. And it's more important. It shows that what matters is your vitamin D level going into sickness. So a lot of people are oh, I'm going to take vitamin D when I get sick. And it's well, that's not actually that effective or it's not doing anything, but it's probably not giving you the most benefit than if you had optimal vitamin D levels going into sickness.
When we're talking optimal vitamin D, I prefer vitamin D as close to 80 as possible for adults and kids.
Yeah. I say between at least above 50 is optimal.
Yep.
Closer to 80 is great.
It's important to keep in mind too that a lot of people say, well, my multivitamin or my prenatal or, whatever has vitamin D in it. Yep. But if you read the label, they usually only have 50 to 100 IUs of vitamin D.
It's nothing.
Which is nothing.
Yeah.
So really, and this you kind of have to talk to your provider about based on your levels, but 5,000 to 10,000 IUs a day is usually what I recommend at the least.
For adults?
For adults, yeah. For kids, anywhere from 2 to 5,000.
Yeah, it's like 2 to 4 or 5 is pretty standard. And vitamin D is fat soluble. So every time you do increase, you store it in your fat cells. So it does increase over time. And you can have too much, which is why it's nice to get it checked or just not like perpetually forever and ever be on vitamin D, but it's good going into sick season. Okay, vitamin C, great immune support.
Yep. Lots of food sources of vitamin C, all your dark leafy greens, citrus fruits, things like that.
Kiwi.
That is easy to get in dietary wise, but sometimes, opposite of vitamin D, in sick season, increasing your vitamin C substantially can be helpful for helping your immune system fight off whatever is going on.
Yeah, definitely very helpful in the acute time. It's not fat soluble, so it's, we excrete it quite quickly. And so that's why it's like, we did our cough and cold podcast and handout, and that definitely want to keep it on board. And it's like, if we've got vitamin C sitting in our shelf for sick season, we should probably just have a little bit as we're going into the school year. Zinc's another really great immune support. I mean, it does so many different things, but low amounts. There should be some in your multivitamin.
Should be, yeah. I would say the disclaimer for all of this is read the labels of every vitamin that you're taking. Because you're like, some people say, I thought my multivitamin had iron in it.
Right.
They usually don't.
No.
That's just fun fact. But always read the labels of the multivitamins that you're taking. But most should have zinc.
Yeah.
Just double check.
Yeah. And then just general gut support with probiotics and immune globulins. We have like tons of recs on different probiotics. If you can get some fermented foods in your diet, that's another great way just to have those probiotics. Kefir, I don't know how you say it, can be really good. But if that's sourdough, sauerkraut, if that's just not really feasible, your kid's picky, whatever, certainly you can add in probiotics.
And that's kind of circles back to diet, right? The gut really is the controller of the immune system. So when we're not feeding the gut properly through, a high protein, well-balanced breakfast, lunch, and dinner, our gut can start releasing bad stuff and causing our immune system to react. Some people call it leaky gut, which we all have leaky gut.
Yeah.
That's just every person on the face of the earth has leaky gut. And so that's why things like immunoglobulins can be helpful because they kind of help restore and repair that lining of the gut. I'm a huge fan of immunoglobulins for kids and adults, but it all boils down to nutrition. Are we feeding the gut what it wants? Or are we feeding it sugars and things like that, processed foods that are feeding the bad bacteria and, forcing our immune system to respond?
Right. Yeah, I was reading a really interesting book recently that we were talking about, the super gut.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Davis. And he talks about like making your own yogurt, which I haven't done this yet. It's on my list to do, right? And it's basically making your own yogurt probiotic, but you can get higher concentrations because you're fermenting it yourself essentially in yogurt. And I think that's awesome because I know, I get with 6 kids, I get major supplement fatigue / I'm just inconsistent.
Yeah. I think the disclaimer to all of this supplement conversation is the only ones that are going to work are the ones that your kids are willing to take and that you're willing to give them. And it can be hard to get all this stuff into kids, especially sometimes we recommend fish oil for immune support and gut health. But I'm sure any adult listening who has ever taken a bad fish oil and has those fishy burps, like how in the world am I going to get that into my child? And I'll just be honest, they make the liquid fish oils for kids, but they're horrible.
Yeah,
they just mostly taste bad.
I know.
They try and flavor them, but there are some kids who wake up in the morning and they're like, I'm ready for them.
Give it to me.
Give me my fish oil.
I know. My kids will take the Barlean's mango smoothie flavored one.
Okay, yep.
I think it's, not all of my kids. It's like everything. Some of them will, some of them won't. I did convince half my kids that sardines are the best thing on the planet and they're so amazing and so cool to eat. And so we, inconsistently eat sardines, which is preferable over a mango smoothie omega-3 supplement.
Right, exactly.
But definitely, I guess going back to that book, what I thought was really nice is like, oh, yogurt, like we eat that on a normal basis. So like if that has in it all these great probiotics to kind of reseed the gut with those healthy bacteria, like it's like two birds with one stone. I don't have to fight anybody. I don't have to remember.
Right.
It's just there.
Yeah.
So definitely something worthwhile if you're like me. And like I keep a lot of these supplements kind of on hand, but how consistently I give them? Very inconsistently.
Sure. And that's just the reality when you have little kids.
So that's why I tend to focus, like we keep harping on, like, okay, if I can really focus on the good foods and good nutrition, sleep, sun, all of that, and I like to keep these things on hand for when it's like, okay, yeah, let's hit it for a couple of weeks. We're going into 6th season, or like we're already passing around sniffles. Like all my kids right now have rhinovirus.
Starting the year off strong.
I know, like 2 weeks before school starts, and we have the first cold. So, and just that reassurance always that like getting sick is part of life and normal, and that's okay. And mentally prepare for that. But yeah, any other final thoughts you could think of?
Yeah, I think, like I said, all of these things are good to, I've been kind of educating on this now, a month before school starts and all my, well child physicals, because it's a habit that you have to get into, right? And it could be easy to kind of get lost in the rush of school, forget to do some of these things. So creating a habit, what do they say? It takes, I don't know what
21 days or something
to start a habit. But especially when you have older kids, you're like, okay, this is our new morning routine. You grab a breakfast burrito, put it in the toaster for yourself, grab your multivitamin and whatever, and that's your morning routine. And then before you know it, that's what the whole school year looks like for them.
Yes.
So just instilling kind of those habits in your kids and starting as young as you can.
Yeah.
Can, make your life and their life a lot easier over the next however many years they're in school.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, with that, like prepping, the food prep, especially, I know is exhausting, but helpful. Yeah.
With the family.
And, involving the kids, because no change, there's a time when they're younger when they're just taking things blindly, but then starting to involve them in these decisions of what they're putting in their body, when you're starting those conversations when they're 7, 8, 9, then I do have teenagers who come in who have an incredible diet.
Right.
Because they've just learned, not all, but they've learned to recognize like, yeah, this is how I've been raised. This was a conversation our family had, how food is important. I know my own kids, say the funniest things sometimes, like, oh, we were talking about bacon. Remember this? And one of my kids was like, is that the bacon from the sick pigs, Mom? And I forgot about this entire conversation my husband and I had in the kitchen about, oh my gosh, we need to go back to the farm to get more bacon. I can't buy bacon I can't bring myself to buy bacon from the store because the pigs are, raised this way, whatever. And she totally picked up on all of that.
People joke, like the daddy daycare little girl where she's like from the movie.
Yeah.
I can't have any of these food dyes. And now that's reality for a lot of little kids, which I love.
I'm all for it.
I'm all for it.
Yep.
If a 3-year-old comes up to me and says, I can't eat that because it has red dye in it, you are absolutely correct. And I will listen to anything you say. I think it's great, especially creating that awareness, like we were saying earlier, in when you're sending your kid to an environment where you don't have a lot of control at school. So instilling that education in them is so cool.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, well, I hope you guys feel somewhat equipped to take on the school year and 6th season. Don't forget about our cough and cold podcast, where we definitely go into a lot more, what do I do when my kid is sick? Totally great to keep those things on hand. And yeah, well, until next time.
Yeah, we'll have some supplements in the podcast notes too.
Yes.
In case you want to check them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ashlynn.
Thanks.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. To learn more, you can visit our website at fiathealth.org. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. This helps make the podcast easier to find. Lastly, if you'd like to reach out, ask a question, or suggest a topic for a future show, send us an email at media@fiathealth.org. God bless.